Well, we are pulling into the driveway of stop number 3 of the year, week number 3. Obviously, this time of year, we're going to focus a lot on livestock production, just because there's not a whole lot going on in orchards and vegetable fields in Canada in the winter months. But it doesn't actually mean that you can't grow fruits and vegetables. You just have to do it under glass. You have to do it in a greenhouse. That is where we are headed today. We are headed to find out just where those greenhouse grown cucumbers you might find in the grocery store, where they come from. I see the greenhouse just up ahead. We will see you inside. So we are inside the greenhouse now, and we've got Jan from Beverly Greenhouses. Hi Jan, how are you?
Good, Andrew, how are you?
Wonderful. So in those doors are the cucumbers. Yep. Shall we go in and take a look?
Let's take a look.
So now, driving up, you've got a lot of greenhouses around here. How much space do you have dedicated to growing cucumbers?
We have, altogether, we have 22 acres. 2 of those acres are focused on propagation, so we only grow our own transplants there, and then the other 20 are for production like this.
So now we can already see, and you said that you've been kind of in harvest mode for the last week or so. You can see some cucumbers hanging. Now, the first thing that strikes my, I grow cucumbers at home once in a while, and they're spread out. They take over the garden quickly. You've got them hanging up. What's the reason for it?
Okay, so we have them hanging up, and we actually have to wind those plants in. We go through 3 or 4 times a week, winding the string around the stem, and then we also prune out the growth that we don't want. So every leaf will have a cucumber and a little shoot, and most of that will be removed up into the top of the plant. Otherwise, it just becomes a big bush, a little bush really, and a clump of grow. Whereas we want to train the plant up high, so it's getting the most use of the light, getting the most light exposure for the cucumbers, and also making it effective for harvest and working in the crop.
So now, from that time that you plant it right in that little box right there, how long before they're this big and ready to harvest?
Okay, well, we seed directly into that little block that you were just pointing out, and it takes this time of year it takes 29 days to get them ready for planting. Now we actually have a batch that's getting planted next week Monday, and so they'll be 29 days old then. When we plant them in the greenhouse, 29 days old, they're 45 centimeters tall, and so after that they grow fairly quickly. But it still takes almost a month before we start harvesting.
Mm-hmm. So now you've got these flowers, obviously, are kind of where they're starting. How long from the point when they're going to flower until they actually start producing the cucumber? Actually see that cucumber?
And it's interesting to know that there's a significant difference from that time that it takes from flower to harvest. Now there's a lot of variables, but the biggest one is the time of year. And this time of year, it takes at least 12 days, I would say. In the summertime, more like 7 days, but it depends a lot on how many fruit are there hanging on the plant. I mean, there's only so many stimulants to go around, and so the more cucumbers that are growing at one time, the slower they're all going to grow.
Oh, okay. And then I'm assuming the shorter time in the summer is because you've got more light coming in through the roof.
Exactly. A lot of times people think that greenhouses, we're immune to the weather, and they think of us maybe as kind of a factory, but the reality is this is agriculture. We very much depend on the weather, and I don't know if you can tell on the video, but it's dark and raining right now. So very little photosynthesis will happen on a day like this, and the production will immediately be affected.
Light being one impact. What else impacts a cucumber growing?
Well, certainly temperature is a big factor, and we're heating the greenhouse to optimum temperature all the time. In fact, that's what greenhouse operating is about optimization. So we optimize the temperature, we optimize the humidity, we optimize the watering, the plant nutrition, the cultural practices. Everything is optimized. Even adding CO2 into the air to optimize again the growth of the plant.
Really? So you're actually adding extra CO2 than what they'd have outside?
Yes.
Just so that they grow a little bit faster or a little bit healthier, or what would be the reason?
Ambient CO2 is about 400 parts per million, and it's all computerized. So what actually happens is as the sun intensity goes up, then the computer will start the boiler up and blow the exhaust right off the boiler into the greenhouse to raise the CO2. and it goes up proportionally. The sunnier it is, the more CO2 we inject, and up to a maximum. So we also have a maximum. So at this time of day, the maximum would be 800. So if the CO2 goes above 800 parts per million, which is double the ambient, then it's off.
So you're actually really recycling some of those greenhouse gases that you're using anyway.
Absolutely.
But now you're actually feeding the plant with it.
We're taking the exhaust off the boiler, and for the heat that we have to make anyways, and we're using it.
Pretty environmentally thoughtful of you. Very cool.
Yeah,
very cool.
What we're all about.
When it rains outside, these plants aren't going to get rained. How do you water them?
Each plant has a dripper. So it's not running right now, but if it were running, then you would see a little stream of water dripping off the end, and all that water is fertilized water. So there's nutrients, all the nutrients that plants need are in that water. The water,
kind of like a miracle grow for cucumbers specifically.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Very special format. We verify the levels are appropriate on regular intervals and adjust accordingly.
All right, so we're back with Jan here, obviously in where you're packaging a lot of these cucumbers. Tell me what we're looking at, Jan.
Well, this is our main packing house. We have 2 sites where we're growing at, and this is where we're bringing all of our cucumbers to. And we pack them the same day we pick them, and they're trucked out of here the same day as well. We harvest into those orange crates, and then they're unloaded onto those trolleys. And those trolleys are, once they're on the trolleys, then all the handling is done automatically. So nobody's lifting and twisting and pulling.
So then they're coming off here, they're going to dump. We can kind of see over in the back, they're dumping onto the line. And I'll sneak up here. So that's a lot of cucumbers going through there. How many cucumbers can you do in a day?
We can package about, I'm not going to answer your question, but indirectly, we can package about 1,600 dozen an hour.
An hour?
Yeah. Now we only pack what we harvested that day. It's only what was ready. So that could be a few hundred dozen, or it could be 10 or 12,000 dozen.
You said these are then going to the grocery stores. Where are your cucumbers going? Where can people buy your cucumbers?
It's really hard to say. I mean, our cucumbers go to all the major chains and in Ontario and even into the United States. In fact, Ontario greenhouse vegetables are over 70% exported to the U.S.
Wow, that's a big number going south.
Yes. Yeah.
Very good. Well, appreciate the tour, Jan.
Yeah, you're very welcome.